went over it this morning. It took me like 15 minutes to read it, so. We're going to be in Joshua 13. I always find it funny because the program that I use for my notes, my regular sermon notes on the computer, it tells me how many words are there, and then it tells me an estimated time, and it's always under a half hour. It's just, I laugh at it every week because it's like, yeah. That's an estimated time. All right, well, I'll hope that this 15 minutes, let's get it done. We're going to be in Joshua. We're going to start in chapter 13. Anybody remember where I left off last week? I meant to look it up. I think we just finished the first page, didn't we? Yes. And then we're starting on the second. Okay. Does everybody have one? Did you need one to follow along? Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Wayne probably stole it from you. She does now. All right. Let's go ahead and pray, and we'll get started. I just have a feeling it's going to be one of those days. You ever have one of those days where everything you try to do just kind of... Oh, did you? Okay. It's been kind of one of those weeks. Wednesdays, recordings, the computer glitched, and so there was video, but there was no sound, even though it was showing that it was picking up the sound. It didn't record the sound. And then the audio program stopped working. I love technology when it works. I have a love-hate relationship with it. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day you've given to us. Thank you for this time to study your word together. Lord, I pray that you help us to understand these truths. Help us to better grasp the richness of your word. And Lord, I pray that you'd help us to be faithful and diligent students of it. Please help us today as we have the service and as we study. Lord, would you help us to be attentive? Would you help us to be clear in our thinking? Pray that you would, Lord, I pray that you just help us. In Jesus' name, amen. So we're going to be in chapter 13. Get over here. And this is where Joshua is finally going to divide up the land. So they've come through. They had 3 campaigns to, in essence, take the land captive for themselves. They went through the middle, and so we have Jericho and Ai were the first battles. Then they went south, beginning with Gibeon, and they had a southern campaign. Then they went north, and there was 5 kings that they defeated. Now, there are still various tribes or nations of these Canaanites within the land. But at this point, they're subdued. They're under control, so to speak, at this point. And what God's going to do is he's going to give them the responsibility to finish the job. So let's look here, chapter 13, verse 1. Now Joshua was old and well stricken in years. And the Lord said unto him, Thou art old and stricken in years. He's just trying to make a point. He's an old geezer. And there remaineth yet much land to be possessed. This is the land that yet remaineth. All the borders of the Philistines, and all Geshuri, from Sihor, which is before Egypt, even unto the borders of Ekron northward, which is counted to the Canaanites, 5 lords of the Philistines, the Gazathites, and the Ashdodites, and the Ashkelonites, and the Gittites, and the Ekronites, and the Abites. And from the south, all the land of the Canaanites, and Murah, that is beside the Sidonians, unto Aphek, to the borders of the Amorites, and the land of the Giblites. That sounds like something you'd get from chicken. The Giblites, and all Lebanon toward the sun rising, from Baal Gad unto Mount Hermon, unto the entering into Hamath, all the inhabitants of the hill country, from Lebanon unto Mizraphoth Maim, and all the Sidonians. Then will I drive out from before the children of Israel, only divide thou it by lot unto the Israelites for an inheritance, as I have commanded thee. Now therefore divide this land for an inheritance unto the 9 tribes and the half tribe of Manasseh. So he's speaking, God's already given land to 2.5 tribes, Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh on the other side of the river. You remember before they crossed over, they asked, is it a good place to raise cattle? So they asked, could God find it in his heart to give us this land over here? And they're like, well, that's not really a good idea. It's like, no, really. All we want to do is just raise our cattle over here. And so God gave them a lot of land over there on that side. But then their men of war still had to come across with the Jordan with them, still had to go to battle, and then after the battle was done, they could go back home. Well, 9.5 tribes are left that need to get their land still. And so that's what's going on here. So notice here, this is God's command to divide the land. That's what's going to go on here. Basically, Joshua's going to bring the elders of each of the tribes together. He's going to roll dice, cast lots, and he's just going to, there's these lots of land, and so, this tribe gets this lot, this tribe gets that lot, and that's how it's going to be, how they're going to divide it up. Now, they're not going to, especially, let me see here, it's the tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan is not going to be happy with their land. And when we get to the end of the book of Judges, here, who knows, maybe in 6 or 7 years at this rate, we're going to find that the tribe of Dan is actually going to relocate. Because if you notice here on your map, if you go from the Dead Sea to the left, you have that little orange space. That's where the tribe of Dan, that's what God allots to them. But what's going to happen is the tribe of Dan is actually going to go up to the northern part of Israel and take possession of the land up there because they don't like the land that they got. But we'll get to that when we get to Judges eventually. And so, notice, generally speaking, the whole land had been conquered, but small groups of Canaanites remained, and it was the responsibility of the tribes to drive out the rest. Now, after Joshua's death, these made trouble for Israel. Also, the Philistines, the Sidonians, and the Lebanon regions were still unconquered. So they had the responsibility, God gave them the responsibility, you need to finish driving out these people. They're subdued right now, but you need to obey me, you keep the covenant, I'll continue to help you drive these people out. But if you forsake the covenant, well, then that's going to be a whole other story. Then I'm not going to drive them out. And so these people are going to be a thorn in the side of Israel because they fail to drive them out. They're going to be a thorn in the side of Israel until the days of David. I think that's very interesting because it pictures the Christian life very well. That the Christian life is like a series of conquests. It's a place of battle. That's what our Christian life is. It's a place of battle. And the conquest is not finished until the king comes. And that's what happens with Israel. In fact, one of the points, let me see here. I think it's chapter, let's go to chapter 15. I think it's 1563. Yeah. 1563 here. As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Judah at Jerusalem unto this day. So it's David that takes the city of Jerusalem and takes it from the Jebusites and defeats them. So that's coming much later. If we go back to chapter 13, verse 13, he says, nevertheless, the children of Israel expelled not the Geshurites, nor the Maacathites, but the Geshurites and the Maacathites dwell among the Israelites until this day. Now notice here, this is in your notes, it's worthy to note that Joshua 13:13 is the first place we find Israel failed to do as they were supposed to do. They were supposed to drive these people out, but they didn't do it. That's just all there is to it. Now it's really interesting because one of David's wives comes from this tribe, and to her was born Absalom. And now Absalom, well, was he a blessing for his father, or was he a heaviness to his father? I just try to take the kingdom away from him. And so it just kind of shows you, David had a hard time with these people because because Israel in the past did not do what they were supposed to do. Also notice here, and I threw this in there just because I thought it was interesting. It's a kind of an odd place, I think, to put this note, but it's here, verse 22. As they're eliminating these people, verse 22 says, Balaam also, the son of Beor, the soothsayer, did the children of Israel slay with the sword among them that were slain by them. So Balaam finally gets his. He tried to help Balak in eliminating the children of Israel when they were on the other side over in Moab. Well, he got what was coming to him. Justice was served. Now we're going to jump ahead. Let's go to chapter 21, because all this in between is just them dividing up the land, and it's pretty much a repetition over and over and over. You know, this tribe comes up, he casts lots, you get this land, and this is your allotment, and it's described. But over in chapter 21 here, there's a very important note, and it's good for us to explain this because, well, let's just read what it says here, and then we'll get into it. But 21, verse number 43. And the Lord gave unto Israel all the land which he sware to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it, and dwelt therein. And the Lord gave them rest round about, according to all that he sware unto their fathers, and there stood not a man of all their enemies before them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. There failed not aught of any good thing which the Lord had spoken unto the house of Israel, all came to pass. Now that's a hard passage. Let's go back to Genesis. Keep your place here. Go back to Genesis for a moment. And I'll show you why this is hard. Genesis, forgot to look it up. It's either 12 or 15. I'm pretty sure it's 15. Yeah. So chapter 15 down to verse 17. So this is the inauguration, I guess you could say, the establishment of the Abrahamic covenant. Verse 17 says, It came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land. Now watch the borders here. From the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Now, so the border of Israel, what God promised them land-wise, was going to go, I don't know if this is the best way to do this. So, the border is obviously going to be the Mediterranean Sea. It's going to go all the way down to Egypt. It's going to go all the way up to the Euphrates River, and it's going to follow that Euphrates River all the way around. That Euphrates River becomes the east border. Well, that goes all the way over to Iraq. That's a very large piece of land. Now, when we read here in Joshua what Joshua gave, this is what he gave. This is their allotment. Well, that's a lot smaller than what Genesis 15 says. So, what does it mean then when it says that the Lord gave unto Israel all the land which he sware to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it and dwelt therein? Because this doesn't look like they're dwelling in that land. Now, here's one of the reasons this is important. Okay, so we are premillennialists. Okay, we believe Jesus Christ is going to come back. There's going to be 7 years of tribulation. He's going to establish his kingdom at the end of that. He's going to reign on the earth for 1,000 years, and Israel is going to have the land promised to them, that which we just read about in Genesis chapter 15. Now, what happens is those that believe in amillennialism, meaning no millennium, or those that believe in postmillennialism, they bring up this passage and they say, see, that's all the land that God gave them, and here it says that all the promises were fulfilled. That the promise was fulfilled that he swore unto their fathers. So it must have a different meaning. It can't mean that God's going to give them all that, because God gave them that and it said he fulfilled the promise to the fathers. And so you premillennialists, God's already given them the land. There's not land for the future for them to get. So how do we understand this? Because if this is the only information you get, that sounds like a fairly convincing argument, because how in the world do you understand that? Because God promised in Genesis 15 a very large portion of land, and here they're only getting just a sliver of it. Two passages we need to consider. I don't have them written down. You may want to write them down. Let's go to Genesis chapter 17. Because there are alternate promises that were made as kind of an earnest, I guess you could say, promise. That God's going to give you this initially until later when he gives you the rest. Genesis chapter 17, notice verse 8. So here again, talking to Abraham, God says, I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger. All the land of what? Canaan. See, now we have a very specific promise. God says, I'm going to give you the land that you're a stranger in, and it's the land of Canaan. Now, that matches that, doesn't it? Now, let's go over to Numbers 34. This is one of those passages. You ever have those times when you're reading your Bible and a passage, your attention is drawn to a passage, and it's like, wait a minute. Is that in all of my Bibles? But Numbers chapter 34. I'm going to read several verses here. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall unto you for an inheritance, even the land of Canaan with the coasts thereof. Now, I'm going to try to pronounce some of these names. Then your south quarter shall be from the wilderness of Zin, along by the coast of Edom. Your south border shall be the outmost coast of the Salt Sea eastward, so that's the Dead Sea. And your border shall turn from the south to the ascent of Akrabim. That kind of sounds like Aladdin, right? I shouldn't say that, I'm sorry. And pass on to Zin. And the going forth thereof shall be from the south to Kadesh Barnea, and shall go on to Hazar Adar, and pass on to Asmon. And the border shall fetch a compass from Asmon unto the river of Egypt. And the goings out of it shall be at the sea. And as for the western border, ye shall even have the great sea, that's the Mediterranean Sea is what we call it today, for a border. This shall be your west border. And this shall be your north border. From the great sea, even, great sea, ye shall point out for you Mount Hor. And from Mount Hor ye shall point out your border unto the entrance of Hamath, and the goings forth of the border shall be to Zedad, and the border shall go on to Ziphron. Well, instead of just naming all these names, if you read down to verse number 12, the land allotment that he's promising there is exactly what we see here. So, did God fulfill the promises that he made to the fathers? Yes. Just not every one of them. So one of the things that we have to understand is, and I'll show this to you, is we have to, well, that's your answer right there in the blank. Yes is the answer. God did fulfill the promises. He just didn't fulfill every single one of them. Now, how do we know that? Well, one, Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. What does God promise in Genesis 3:15? The promised Messiah, right? Well, had the Messiah come yet at the end of Joshua? No. So, having revival right here. Sorry. No, Messiah has not come yet, so that promise hasn't been fulfilled. God also promised to give them the land that follows the border of the Euphrates River. Well, that promise hasn't been fulfilled, but all the promises have been fulfilled to this point that God was making with them. That's one of the ways we have to understand this. So notice here in your notes, this sums up God's fulfillment of his covenant promise to give Abraham's seed the land. Okay? In a general sense, the Canaanites were in check, under military conquest as God had pledged, and posed no immediate threat. Not every enemy had been driven out, however. This left room for them to stir up trouble later. This passage must be understood in light of chapter 13, 1-7, and verse 13, which we read, that they failed to drive those people out. But then let's jump over here to chapter 23. We're close to there. Chapter 23, verse 12. Now watch what he says. Actually, let's back up just a little bit. Verse 6. Be therefore very courageous. Be therefore very courageous to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, that ye turn not aside therein to the right hand or to the left, that ye come not among these nations, these that remain among you, neither make mention of the name of their gods, nor cause to swear by them, neither serve them, nor bow yourselves unto them, but cleave unto the Lord your God, as ye have done unto this day. For the Lord hath driven out from before you great nations and strong, but as for you, no man hath been able to stand before you unto this day. One man of you shall chase 1,000. For the Lord your God, he it is that fighteth for you, as he hath promised you. Take good heed, therefore, unto yourselves, that ye love the Lord your God. Now watch verse 12. Else, if ye do in any wise go back and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you, know for certainty that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you. But they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until ye perish from off this good land which the Lord your God hath given you. So notice, did God keep the promises and give them the land? Yes, he did. The land that he promised in 2 places. But it was conditional. Because what does he say? He says, if you keep the covenant, then you'll get to keep the land. But if you don't keep the covenant, then what? You're gone. I'll send you away. So notice here in your notes, the question is not, did God give them the land? Rather, and I'm going to add a little bit to this, did Israel take complete possession of the land God had given them? And the answer is no. The answer is no. It was theirs. It was theirs for the taking. If they would obey, then God would help them drive out the rest of the people. But they didn't do it. They didn't obey God, and so, no, they didn't take possession of their land. It wasn't until the time of David that they began to actually take full possession of the land, and then under Solomon it began to expand a little bit. Let's notice down here. So the conditions for staying in the land. Joshua 21:43 through chapter 22 rehearses the conquest and the appointment of the land. Chapter 23 records Joshua's farewell address. In this address, Joshua reminds them that God has faithfully given them the land and victory over their enemies. But he also prophesied to them that God will someday drive them from the land as the consequence of their disobedience when they mix with the heathen and go whoring after strange gods. So we read up to here, verse 13. Let's continue reading here, chapter 23, verse 14. And behold, this day I am going the way of all the earth. And ye know in all your hearts and all your souls that not one good thing hath failed of all the good things which the Lord your God spake concerning you. All are come to pass unto you, and not one thing hath failed thereof. Therefore it shall come to pass that as all good things are come upon you, which the Lord your God promised you, so shall the Lord bring upon you all evil things until he have destroyed you from off this good land which the Lord your God hath given you. Now watch verse 16. If ye trespass the covenant, is that what it says? When? Wait, what a vote of confidence this is. Joshua's saying, look, guys, I already know what's going to happen. You are going to transgress the covenant. It's going to happen. Which he commanded you, and have gone and served other gods, and bowed yourselves to them, then shall the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and ye shall perish quickly from off the good land which he hath given unto you. Now this is going to occur 800 years later, but it is going to happen. They're going to be taken down to Babylon because they violated the covenant. Now the book closes with the rehearsal of the past. It renews God's covenant with his people. If you look at chapter 24, verse 14, now therefore fear the Lord, serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And the people answered and said, God forbid that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods. For the Lord our God, he it is that brought us up and our fathers out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, and which did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way wherein we went, and among all the people through whom we passed. And the Lord drave out from before us all the people, even the Amorites which dwelt in the land. Therefore will we also serve the Lord, for he is our God. Now that sounds really good. Sounds really good. And I think they are even sincere in thinking that. Now, there's a sense in which, did they follow that? To an extent, because you remember when we get over to the book of Judges, Joshua closes with this very thought. Notice chapter 24, verse 29. Came to pass after these things that Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, being 110 years old, and they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnath-Serah, which is in Mount Ephraim, on the north side of the hill Gaash. And Israel served the Lord all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders that overlived Joshua, and which had known all the works of the Lord that he had done for Israel. Bones of Joseph, which children of Israel brought up out of Egypt, buried they in Shechem, in a parcel of ground which Jacob bought of the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver. And it became the inheritance of the children of Joseph. And Eleazar, the son of Aaron, died, and they buried him in the hill that pertained to Phinehas, his son, which was given him in Mount Ephraim. So notice, all the days of Joshua, the people did serve the Lord. The days of the elders that lived past Joshua, they continued to serve the Lord. But what does Judges tell us? Then there arose a generation that knew not the Lord, nor the works which he had done. And so when we get into the book of Joshua, what we're going to find, Joshua, I think, Judges is one of the, most misunderstood books in the Old Testament. Because, everybody's an example, right? And everybody's an example of either what you should do or what you should not do. And some people are really good examples of what not to do in life, and that is almost every one of the judges. The judges are not put there to show us people that we're supposed to emulate and follow. Although there are certain aspects of their lives and moments of faith that we can learn from. We get that in Hebrews chapter 11. But the purpose of the book of Judges is to show us what happens when a nation forsakes the Lord, and how corrupt Israel is, and how they need a king, somebody after God's own heart that will come and lead them and unite that kingdom. So we'll get into that when we get into the book of Judges Lord willing, next week. Any questions, thoughts, comments, sir?
What's number 2 blank under Joshua 13:13?
Failed. Okay. Anything else? All right. You're dismissed.